And another week's news on Fragments of Silicon is...
Hope our guest is okay.
I'm doing all right.
All right. I just heard like a grunt or something from your direction.
Oh, I grunt sometimes.
Fair enough. Anyway, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. Right, so we are going to get straight to the interview this week. It's one of those weeks.
Cool.
Anyway, and so we're welcoming back to the program one Ed Annunziata.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, it's good to have you back. Not sure how much you remember of last time.
I remember it fondly.
That's good to hear. Let's see. I believe we left off you leaving Sega. And right. So
just start talking about that from that point on. Just start talking about like what I did and what I remember.
Thereabouts.
Yeah. Okay.
But there's a specific corner that I want to go to.
Oh, good. Okay. I should be patient and let you get to your corner and then speak when you.
I mean, it's not a it's not super descriptive because it's a Nokia. Because if I'm reading this right, you worked at Nokia during the years of the N-Gage.
Right. N-Gage. Yeah. So they had. So you want to know about Nokia?
Yeah. Nokia and the N-Gage. Because that is not a part of video gaming anything that we talk about, ever.
Yeah. Well, we're about to change that, aren't we?
Indeed.
Yeah. So I don't know. Where do you begin with Nokia? Well, I love, so just talk about it in general, the whole thing, N-Gage and all that shit and all things I did there, right?
Sure.
Or do you have a more specific corner that you want to?
I suppose if there's a specific question to be asked, it's did you go to N-Gage or did N-Gage go to you to work there?
So you're just saying why? Why did you go to Nokia and try to make games for the N-Gage? So that's a good question. So Sega is like a game company, and that's kind of where my history is. And Sega got kind of big, and they wanted to make multiple Sega companies like Sega Soft and Sega Mobile. And they made this sort of, I forgot to take my teeth out. Hold on one second.
Okay.
I'll now talk with less lisp. Excuse me. So, anyway, Sega sold Sega Mobile to Nokia. Nokia is a Finnish company, Finland.
Yep.
And this company, I think they started in the 1920s. They sold rubber boots and toilet paper all the way up to the point where somebody said, "Why don't we do these cellular phone things?" And at the time, they're like in big boxes. I think they had cranks that you had to turn. I'm not sure. Anyway, so Nokia said, gets into from rubber boots and toilet paper into the cell phone business. And that's their origin. I shit you not. And they start making phones, and they were on top of the world at the time. Like Apple was just making the Mac, and the PC was just kicking the crap out of it. Dell was kicking the crap out of Apple back in those days. And Nokia is like, we should make the music phone. Here's the music phone, Americans. And we ignored it. And plus, it didn't work and it sucked. And then, here is the business phone for you businessmen in America. And then they didn't care about it. They liked their Palm Pilots or whatever it was at the time. And then they made this device. They had no intention. And if any executives from Nokia listen to your show, they could call me, and we could get in a fight about this. But the N-Gage completely existed before they thought to make it a gaming device. Because check this out, it will take a cartridge, but you have to remove the battery to put the little SMS thing, right? That's the most famous thing. Here's the other thing: it had an FM radio in it. So, like, it's a gaming machine, but when you want to listen to an FM radio, like, it did literally, that taco thing has a radio. In fact, it's a better radio than it is a phone. Also,
you
it has
have to hold it sideways to talk on it as a phone, too.
Yes. Which isn't that bad. You look like an idiot, but ergonomically, it is not that uncomfortable. You just look like a moron. All right, so the geniuses, and let me tell you something. Nokia is a phenomenal company. I love Nokia. There's 50,000, or back then there were 50,000 people that work for it. When you go to the HR webpage in their intranet, you could take at any time, take one of 4,000 courses that they offer. If you want to adopt a kid, part of the benefits are that you could adopt a kid and they take care of everything for you, including paying for it. That's what kind of company it was. I love Nokia. But they were like, we want to make a gaming phone, and they put a ton of money into it. And they repurposed this businessman phone and hired a bunch, and then they bought Sega Mobile. It's like, here's a tiny little video game company. But look, they're already mobile and they're video games. Let's buy them. So all like these guys that I worked with went along with Sega Mobile to Nokia. And at the time, I think before Nokia, was that Leapfrog? I think it was at Leapfrog before that. Yeah. So then I went so those guys, my friends called and said, hey, you should come here, because they're going to fire us because we need to make games for this thing. And these guys in Vancouver really wanted to do it. They didn't want the Sega Mobile guys doing it. So I went in there and started making games for it. But I'll be honest with you. I love the company, like I already just told you, and I love the device. I thought it was charming. And I loved that it had an FM radio in it. And it had the Symbian operating system, which would just pause randomly for no reason. Nobody could explain why. It had like so many effed up things to deal with just to make a normal video game. But, hey, they were willing to pay to make some games. So we made a bunch of games. And my famous, no, well, I'm not famous. Nobody knows about this game. But the game I love the most, that I feel like I had to fight and kill for to bring into existence, was Mile High Pinball. So Mile High Pinball on the N-Gage. I don't know if my name's on it anywhere, but that's my game. And I loved it. And then after 2 years, they like canceled every project I had going. They're like, oh, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do this. They don't know anything. And then the iPhone came out, started killing them immediately as a company. And I'm like, all right, I'm out. And I left. And poor Nokia. What a great company.
Yeah. I'm not sure how much of Nokia is left after,
Well, no, those dudes, they're more business to business. Like they make like a router. You know how you have powerful routers in your house and it'll work, 2 floors down, but 3 floors down, no way, or in the backyard, no way. They make a router where it's a mile So you could be a mile away and the fucking thing still works. You could Google. That's what Nokia makes now. So they make like networking and optic fiber shit. And I think they're owned, and Microsoft owns them now.
Microsoft bought a good chunk of them, but
yeah. All right, you did your homework. Did you Google it?
No, I remember this from back in the day. Like, it was a literal big deal. Microsoft buying, Nokia or like a part of Nokia. I don't remember the details, but I do remember that thing happening. And also, it didn't last too long because Microsoft wasn't really good at making phones either.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, what made Mile High Pinball such a treasure to you?
Well, so I took the device very seriously. Like that was the thing. It's like you can't just have Lara Croft on a phone, on a Symbian phone. You have to acknowledge the fact that it's a phone and you play it with one thumb. In fact, I used to write on every dry erase board in the place every day, one thumb fun or a new way to play. Because everybody's thinking about the old ways, which is, joystick, 5 buttons, and like, the $1 million games that Nokia made. Pardon me. Sorry about the beeping. I gotta drop the ladies off.
It's fine.
You could cut to a commercial.
I guess if we had commercials, I guess we do. I mean, we do have commercials, but we don't have sponsors, or rather, I don't trust Steam Elements enough to run those.
Well, Microsoft just got some free mileage. Yeah. I mean, you guys are,
Yeah, I suppose we're going to be talking about them because
we have things we'll talk about. Yeah.
All right, you got any other questions, or what was I saying? I forgot what I was saying.
You were talking about Mile High Pinball and.
Okay. So it's a good fucking game. You could play a 2D pinball game, a vertical 2D pinball game. It's something that your brain could understand, and you could play while standing on a train going to work with one thumb because you could do both paddles with one thumb. So it was you could play pinball for a vertical mile, and that's how the game worked. Sorry about the beeping. You could play pinball vertically for a mile with just one thumb. And the way it worked was, you go higher and higher, and it would scroll up, and then you hit with the paddles, and you get higher and higher and higher and higher. And then if you miss, you lose altitude, and you'd have to catch it with another paddle. But they all were controlled with one thumb. And plus, on the N-Gage, the geniuses at Nokia making a game phone, they make the display vertical, not landscape. Like you'd play a game and make it vertical. So it's great for Tetris, but it also was very good for Mile High Pinball.
I don't know if Tetris ever appeared on the N-Gage.
Yeah, nope. You got to Google it.
Yeah, I know Sonic did, and it was not good because that aspect ratio. But
sorry, that's all I got.
Is it legal to not release Tetris on something?
Wow, that's a good question. I know it's a sin not to release it because technically Tetris is so minor. It should run on your toaster. You should be able to put Tetris on it.
Yeah, Tetris. Tetris was programmed in ASCII on a Soviet clone computer initially.
Exactly.
So it's not very technology dependent.
Right. How many shapes could you have? No, you can't have a lot of shapes. How many? 4. That's it. That's all you get. I got to make a game with just 4 shapes. That's it. Yeah. It's like the bare effing minimum.
Right.
Yeah, I think it should be on everything.
I mean, Tetris is on a lot of things. Let's be honest here.
Okay.
I've had,
You've had enough Tetris. That's what you're trying to say.
No, I've had watches that have had Tetris on it.
Dude, that's what I would
People
like.
People have made a backport for the 2600 for Tetris.
It's like I'm not sure if it's like Tetris or Doom that's more ported, but there's probably some record somewhere about that.
I want Doom on a ring, like
Give them time.
just barely, just could barely see it, and then with your thumb on the ring, you
That
control.
would be interesting.
I mean, it's less interesting these days with how modern operating systems work. Like, it's everything's like usually using a fork of Android or something like that.
Literally, you can play Doom on your fridge if you want to.
Yep. You could,
but not Tetris.
Probably Tetris as well.
Yeah, Tetris. I think Tetris works.
Like, I mean, you could also bring those games to like your car's OS. And so,
yeah.
Like,
I think a Cuphead is in Teslas.
Yeah. I think it was just the first level, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that
you probably could buy the whole game, like the first level's free to play.
Yeah, and it's also because the Tegra chip is really cheap to use.
The what? I'm sorry.
The Tegra chip.
I see. The 3D, the GPU.
Yeah. Which is the thing that powers the Nintendo Switch as well. So
yes. You guys playing the new Zelda game?
Some of us are.
I am currently.
There's guys that work with me are just salivating over it. I'm like, oh my god, because the first one bored the crap out of me. It's just like I can't run behind this person this long. But now they're going crazy.
I mean,
so I have to pay it. I have to play it.
Yeah, Tears of the Kingdom is more than Breath of the Wild. I'll say that.
More sandboxy or more in terms of like epic narrative?
More sandboxy, like the whole build a thing.
Yeah, there's a bit more narrative, but also just there's a lot more world to it.
Yeah.
Huh. Who loves it on this talk? Does anybody here love it?
I do.
Yeah. No. I think you haven't picked that up, and I don't own a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah. I want to get it, but
not have a Nintendo Switch. I could see not having that Zelda game, but
dude. I have too much on Steam.
Oh, Steam, yeah.
It's like
also Switch is still kind of expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really not that good. It doesn't have that much like what Tegra or whatever what you were just saying. Yeah. It's not that ballsy.
Yeah, Switch is doesn't have a whole lot of hardware power.
Yeah.
A lot, but not all. Well, a lot of Nintendo proper games for it, and some other ones make up for it somewhat with art direction.
And just the ergonomics of the thing, just perfect.
Yeah. I mean,
my game, Space War Arena. I'm sorry, Space War Arena, is perfect on the Switch. I mean, the Switch is perfect for my game. That's what I meant to say. And a refrigerator, in my opinion, but I'm biased.
I mean, well, is your game is Space War Arena on mobile devices?
Switch, no, but eventually they're gonna have it on everything because it's Unity and it works. I have a PC version of it, so that it'll show up in Steam. It's just such a pain in the ass to publish something on Steam. It's like menus upon menus you got to surf through and shit you got to upload and store photos, and if you fuck up it takes forever to figure it out. It's so fiddly. So I'm like, all right, I'll just do it on Nintendo because that's fiddly enough. But eventually I'll put it on everything.
Yeah, I mean, how is it publishing on the eShop?
It's easy technically. How to get everybody's attention is, to me, completely elusive. I have no idea how to do that. But I don't mind really. I just like having a game there, and I have a couple kids that play it, and just figured out the Twitch thing. So now daily battles that we could stream, and I'm 60 and I'm figuring this shit out, and I owe it all to the Switch. I think makes it really easy.
That's good. Like
that's good, Grandpa. You keep going.
But have you been actively working like to get the Space Tour Arena on like Microsoft or Sony's platforms?
Yeah, well, no, well, it's Unity, so we could compile it. So there's two things to it. It's like, what is the back end for the matchmaking, and how do we have the peer to peer? So Nintendo makes that really easy, because it's like, just give us two kids and we'll put them together in the game. So once we have that figured out on other platforms like Steam and Xbox and PS4 and 5, then it's easy to actually make the game run on those platforms, as long as we have a back end that we could plug into and make it multiplayer, because the game is almost worthless as a standalone, single player game. You have to play against somebody. And so that's why it isn't on everything right now, but it's gonna be. And one thing I know, it's so simple and generic, but it really is designed that way, because this is where it starts. Little ships against little ships, and where it could expand, I think, is very interesting. And if you play the game, the moment to moment sort of real time tactical potential of it, I think, is superior, and not superior to any other thing, but is worthy of existence and worthy of play. And I'll admit that almost the best part of it is the energy system that comes from Clash of Clans. It's sort of like, here's energy that completely, always, perpetually refills your tank. And when it gets to a certain point, you could use that energy to instantiate a weapon and then immediately deploy it. That feeling, that loop, feels so good, connected to time. So when you level up your ship and you could, fast forward time, it just feels so great in a real-time strategy game when you're trying to kill somebody else. And I'm a big chess player and I love chess, and so this is really a real-time chess where the pieces explode. So it's a good game. Play it, and I'd give it to you I'll figure out a way to give it to you for free if you don't want to pay $5 for it.
I think we got it from you last time you were on the program.
Yeah. See, there you go.
Yeah.
At least I did that. At least I did that.
True enough.
So what about you guys? Like, I'm at the end of my career. Like, what's the future for you? Are you content creators, or empire builders?
Sure. Like
influencers?
Not sure if we would qualify as influencers, but what we do here and other shows, we are content creators. We do, it's like we do the interview show on Wednesdays and we do the review show on Sundays. Sometimes we have the morning show on Fridays.
So who are the other people that who are my peers of interviewees? I don't know one single other person.
Who we usually have on this program?
Yeah, I guess that's my question.
Yeah. Usually independent folk. We do have the occasional larger publisher person on the, very occasionally. And we've had the occasional industry veteran on this broadcast.
Becky.
Yeah, Tom Hall.
Nice.
It's Grant Kirkhope. Let's see.
Well, tell all the future people that I said hi, and
sure.
the past people if you re-interview them.
We'll do that.
And you could re-interview me anytime. I'm good that way.
Good to know. Good to know.
You could never beat my games, but you could get me on an interview anytime.
I'm like, I mean, these days it's easier to tackle some games, like Echo here.
Oh my God. I saw a guy play Mr. Bones. Maybe, Mr. Bones is
right
hard. And he plays it all the way through, maybe 2 hits. And I couldn't even believe I was watching. I was like, this got to be AI or something, because this guy is incredible. I've never been so impressed. And then there's another guy. Did you ever see the speed run of Shakan, the Forever Man? The guy does it in like 12 minutes or 8 minutes or holy. You know how hard that game is? Not one hit.
Pretty short forever.
Yeah.
It's as short as the Brief Man.
Yeah, I'm like the speedrunning community has just an entire suite of tips and tricks to maximize a game's completion.
Yeah, and I know a couple of people who do it, and a lot of them actually look for games that are not being done that much to work on, so that can be like their game that they're really good at.
Here's the thing I never realized until just very, very recently, is that when you watch a speed run and they don't take any hits, what you're watching is exactly how you designed it. Because when you're designing a game, you don't imagine, they're stuck in a hole and the other skeletons keep pummeling him. You're just jumping up and down, stuck in a hole for 5 minutes. Like, I didn't design it that way. But so the guy who plays the game in the context of a speed run says, here's how you designed it. So it's a lovely thing to watch, even though it's just a fantasy. It's like masturbation, game design masturbation.
At least when it's not in a huge super glitchy run mode.
Yeah.
Like go through walls.
Yeah, they probably didn't design Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past for you to fall through the floor on a screen transition and walk under the final boss room to the Triforce.
Good point. That's the other side of the coin. The other thing too is I love all the cinematics in my games, and they skip that shit in the context.
Yeah, because that's literally wasting time on the run.
Yeah, it's still a beautiful thing. That's they took video games and turned it into a sport.
Yes, they did.
Very cool.
Better than some of the video games that are actively trying to be sports, I think.
Yeah.
Like
League of Legends works. I still love League of Legends. And Rocket League Arena works great.
That's the mobile one, isn't it?
No, that's Steam. More like a mouse. That's the car playing soccer game.
Yeah, no, Rocket League. The whatever.
Oh, what did I say? Did I not say Rocket League?
You said Rocket League something.
Arena.
Yeah.
Oh, Arena. Yeah, Space War Arena. Yeah, that's why. Sorry, dudes.
It's fine. It's fine.
All right. Any other questions? You can shoot at my feet. I'm not afraid.
Yeah. What else is Alchemy or Playchemy, or how do you pronounce it?
Playchemy. It's like Alchemy, except with play.
Yeah.
I have to explain it to everybody. I know it's a sucky name because of that, but
I get what you're going for. It's just hard to pronounce.
Yeah.
And you don't hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, because I like Playchemy is in the VR space.
Yes. Yeah. So I have a project that I love dearly, like all the rest of them, and you control a little 2-inch skateboard. Like a tech deck skateboard. Do you like those little 2-inch skateboards on your desktop? I mean, talk real life. That little.
I never had one, but it always seemed like it would be a fun thing to fiddle with.
If you grew up with skateboards, and then you work in a cube, like a company like Nokia, having like a little 2-inch skateboard on your desk it's a nice thing, especially if you're on the phone.
Yeah, sadly, I grew up with an acute awareness of the fact that I was nowhere near cool enough for a skateboard.
Yeah, so the 2-inch one, anybody can have one of them, and that shit works. But it's a terrible play mechanic because you can't do an ollie. Nobody could do that. I mean, there are kids that could do that. I don't know how they do that. They cheat somehow, or they're magical. But it's a terrible play mechanic. But Oculus has this API. At the time, it was called Liquid, and it's just show the VR, showed the Oculus 2 your hands, and then it could tell you all the rotations of the fingers, and then we use that to control the little skateboard. So now, when you move your two little fingers with your on top of your little skateboard, if you flip, it actually does a beautiful flip in slow motion in the air right in front of your face, and it's magical. It's perfect. Like, we fixed the play mechanic of the 2-inch skateboard. So by fucking with time when the thing is in the air, and then the trouble with having a toy in the context of VR is you got no haptics, no pushback, so you can't feel the toy. So here's why it's brilliant. My little kickflip game. Here's why it's brilliant: is that you don't have to touch the little skateboard. You just have to get as close as you can to it without touching it, and then you could control it. So if you put your two fingers just slightly on the skateboard and then quickly pull them away, you do an ollie, and it just is beautiful because it's in slow motion and VR 3D right in front of your face, and you feel like you did it. You feel like your action did it. So it's sort of like, instead of like the skateboard saying, "Here, I'm fake and you can't feel me," it's sort of like, "You're fake and I'm going to pretend you're real, but I'm not going to touch you." And I know that's a weird thing to say, but here's how it manifests in the context of a game. That the closer your fingers are to it when it's doing a trick like flying through the air, the quicker it generates XP. And the more the little skateboard generates XP, the quicker it levels up. The quicker it levels up, the more customizations you can make to your 2-inch skateboard. But if you level up enough, you could unlock another skateboard that has different physical properties. And it's cool to have a little toy that levels. So it works great. And then it has this other aspect that I didn't realize until I'm playing it, and I'll show you some videos if you want. As the little skateboard is flying through the air, if you pretend that you're riding it with your fingers, if your fingers are close to it as it's going through the air, you could see, because little +1s are emitting from it, that it's doubling its XP rate. And it feels great. So you're rewarded for proximity in VR. Suddenly, you don't care about haptics. You're not reaching until you feel something. You're tracking something moving in 3-dimensional space, and you're trying to touch your fingers just barely on it. And fuck, is that fun and satisfying. So just trying to get the skateboard to jump up onto a platform and do a double flip and land on all 4 little tiny wheels, and then get like 1,000 XP for that, and the points explode out of it. It is very satisfying. I'm very excited about that. I'm psyched to show Apple.
And how far along is this skateboarding game?
Well, everything I described works. It just doesn't look very good. So it's like the skateboard is a rectangle. Right. The desk is like a wood texture that you get for free when you download the free version of Unity. So it's just really bare minimum. But mechanically, it's beautiful, and you could train it. Like, imagine you have your fingers on the skateboard's on your desk, and you pull your hand straight up, right above it, but fast. It will lift up, straight up, and then land all 4 wheels down, straight. But if you lift your fingers off it quickly and then do a little turn, a little pirouette, or any movement, it'll affect the angular momentum of the skateboard when it ascends. And it just is beautiful. Like, you could make it do almost anything. And you could train it to your, like, if you can't really get it to do a backwards ollie or triple flip, but the other way, because there's horizontally, there's 2 ways you could flip it. You could train it, and it will do it based on the way you do the gesture, and it works. Actually, if you have an Oculus, you give me your Oculus username. You could try it before I even give you a video. Fuck a video. You don't even.
Sadly, none of us are really into VR stuff.
So why am I talking
we're interested in the
about this?
concept, but we have a variety of issues that lie on the scale of worried about getting headaches to reliably get motion sickness.
Yeah. Oh my god! Right as soon as you said motion sickness, I got a little nauseous. So I am ultra nauseated type person, and so I'm very sensitive to it. So I know what you're talking about. Wait until Apple comes down to like $1,500 on their thing, then do it. Mm-hmm. Then it's not going to be an issue anymore. But yeah, you're right. But thanks for asking. Thank you for listening to me this whole time about it. You could edit it out. I don't care.
No problem. No, it's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, do you have any thoughts on the Vision Pro?
Yes. I'm in love with it. Absolutely in love with it. And I love the approach that they took. They went experience first. Normally a company would be like, okay, we're going to do this VR thing. Okay, what's the price point that we're shooting for? Well, people don't want to pay. How much will people want to pay? So this is the beginning of the discussion in most companies. Apple's like, what is the experience? Yeah, but what are they going to don't even bring that up right now. We're not even fucking talking about how much it's going to cost. What's the experience we want, and how could it be the best technically possible? And they did that. And then, they did the math. Somebody got out a spreadsheet, and it's $3,500 for this thing. It's because it has like 18 cameras in the front of the thing looking out. It has a screen just so you could see the eyes of the person who's using it. Like, it doesn't do you any good. Using the device to have your eyes being seen from the outside until somebody talks to you. And it's like, fuck, man. They said, oh, when you're in a living room and your wife starts talking to you, making fun of you, and you have no idea what she's doing. You're just like talking to a noise. It's very annoying. But when you could see her, then it's much better. But if she could see you, she could see your eyes, then it's even better. And they knew that. And they didn't care what it cost. They just went for the experience and they made it. And I think that approach is brilliant. As much as I hate Apple for other reasons, I think they nailed it on this. It's a good approach. It's going to take years before it's a consumer device, but it'll just keep getting faster. I mean, does anybody have an iPhone on this call? Anybody have an iPhone?
I'm Android.
I think we're all Android here.
Yeah, they see. This is why you guys are quiet. If you had an iPhone, with the I don't know what they call it. Some displays, the liquid display, some bullshit. It's so high resolution, whatever it is. Retina. It's a retina display. One of those pixels. So-called
because it allegedly has as high of a resolution as your eye is capable of discerning, I think.
Yeah, that's the phone. So you take one of those pixels, the Vision Pro, it takes 64 pixels to fill the square of one of the pixels on the phone. And that's the Retina phone. So do you see the difference in resolution of that fucking phone, which is like sick resolution? This one is 64 times higher res. Not really. It's whatever the square root, whatever. It's I don't know how many times resolution. It's a higher, way higher resolution. And to have the best experience in VR, so kids like you don't puke. You know what you got to do? Have sick high res. And that's what they did. Kids, you got to pay attention to it, because all it really is like, look, kids, this is the future. In 2 years, everybody's going to be wearing this thing, and it's going to be tiny and thin and cheaper and faster and higher reser. And you're going to get so addicted to it, you're not going to be able to leave your house without your overlays, because you're going to get so addicted to seeing information come out of fucking everything all the time. You'll never take the damn thing off. And so this is a glimpse of the future, and you need to pay attention to it. I'm shaking my finger at you now. Enough Android and Targa. What is it? Targa? Nintendo GPU. What is it called?
The Tegra. That's
Tegra.
NVIDIA.
Yeah. What? That's like. Is that 1999 or is it
2012?
No. Is it
I mean,
that recent?
that's still 11 years ago.
Well, come on, guys. And artificial intelligence. We didn't even talk about artificial intelligence, and I got to hang up.
All right.
All right, you guys.
Okay.
Keep going. I think your show is great. Thanks for listening to me the whole time.
Thank you.
No
Thank you
problem.
for coming. Have a good rest of your evening.
Yeah. All right. All right.
That'd be
So, I suppose we should get to the news. It's weird to do it this way on this show,
Yeah.
but and we don't have all that much time, and we do have quite a bit to get through with Microsoft. So,
Yeah.
why don't we just forego the news and
Yeah, 'cause
just
we'll be doing it in MSP anyway after the interview, so.
yeah. So, Betty, just play us in the next segment.
Alrighty.
All right. So, welcome to the topic of discussion for the week. So it is currently not E3 time. I mean, it's E3 in all but name.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, everything is a bit more spread out. Like, we had Sony back in May, and from what the rumor mill's been suggesting, the next Nintendo Direct is going to be in July, which tracks because I think all Nintendo has left on the official roster that has a release date is Pikmin 4, which is coming out in July. So, we'll talk about the Nintendo Direct when it happens. But, we've had the lion's share of conferences this past week. And the headliner, as usual, is Microsoft with the Xbox Showcase. And they certainly had a lot to show. I'm like, which is always the case with them. And I'll give them more credit. They had more interesting stuff this time than they usually do, at least conceptually. The problem is a lot of it was CGI trailers. They still had that problem.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, Microsoft's acquisition strategy is finally coming to the fore, in the sense that a bunch of their studios finally announced games.
Indeed.
Or had deeper showcases. Like a good example is Avowed from Obsidian.
Mm-hmm.
Or the game that closed out the show, not including Starfield, which got its own Direct. They literally called it the Starfield Direct. So you want to know how much the Nintendo Direct has influenced the industry. Clockwork Revolution, or is it what everyone was calling it, Bio Infinite Shock again.
How long have
Like-
you been sitting on that one?
Not very long. I mean, the game only got revealed on Sunday.
Fair.
Mhm.
Like, trust me, the comparisons to Bioshock Infinite were immediate. And it is different than what In Exile Entertainment usually puts out, which is role-playing games. They did like the Wasteland series previous to this. Still some stuff that's MIA, like Everwild, or I think most people have forgotten that Everwild got announced.
Yeah.
And if you don't remember it, and I don't blame you, because it's been a while since Microsoft or Rare have talked about this. This is like the next game from Rare.
Mhm.
But
Oh yeah, I remember this. At least it had a kind of interesting art style thing going on.
but like Microsoft has had some problems at some of their studios, and from what I've heard, Everwild is one of them. Like, the game has been rebooted, which would explain why it's disappeared off the face of the earth.
Mhm.
Now, granted, like I said, there are other games that fall under that umbrella, but they weren't really here, which is kind of the point. Like, another one's Perfect Dark. The Perfect Dark remake or reimagining or reboot or whatever the fuck it's supposed to be. See, we don't really know what that's supposed to be. It's just
The Perfect Dark new project.
Yeah, like, I've heard reboot, but with all of the turmoil that's been going on with that project, or maybe not turmoil, see also State of Decay 3. Like, that's another game that got announced with a CG trailer and, hasn't really been talked about since. Like, on the other hand, we did have Setsuna Saga Hellblade 2 show up. Still haven't played the first Hellblade.
Yeah. Apparently it just popped up on Game Pass. I know you guys don't have that, but it's
I know it
another
was
way
on
to get it, so...
It was on sale, but didn't pick it up.
Yeah, it'll probably pop up on the Steam Summer Sale again anyway.
Probably. Like, it regularly does that. Like, but Microsoft did have things to show off this time, and I suppose we should address, the great big hope.
Which one?
Well, what do you think Microsoft's flagship title is at this stage?
Hmm.
I'm like, I'll give you a hint. It's the game they gave an entire fucking direct to.
Yeah.
And that's Starfield. Like, Starfield is very much being positioned as Microsoft's flagship title for the year. Which
makes sense. They've been trying to push this for how many years?
Well, who is this? Because, like, Bethesda was pushing this game, even before the buyout.
Yeah.
But, it's also being touted as the first new game from Bethesda. It's one of those specific things. It's the first new IP in 20 years from Bethesda, which is true.
Yeah, because they bought Fallout.
Yeah, they bought Fallout. They put out Elder Scrolls. I know some people think of Skyrim as, what the franchise is, and no, it's Elder Scrolls.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's always been Elder Scrolls. Like, the next game isn't going to be Skyrim 2. It's going to be the Elder Scrolls 6.
Mm-hmm.
Skyrim is, in fact, a region in that world.
Yes, like Tamriel, I believe.
Yeah, that's, I think, the one.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Thedas popped up in my head, but that's Dragon Age, and that's because it's literally short for the Dragon Age setting.
Yeah. And, it's certainly looking big, if nothing else, and it is an extension of what Bethesda was doing in Fallout 4 and Skyrim, which is not a surprise because Bethesda built those. It's probably going to be less like the Elder Scrolls Online and Fallout 76, which, yes, both of those did show up there.
I'm still shocked they're pumping out stuff for 76, but...
Well, it's like...
According to Mac, they've at least made it not suck, so...
Yeah.
It took forever.
Yeah. It makes money, but, I don't think Fallout 76 will ever cease being a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah, they just make a playable joke that actually has some content instead of a... why would you even think about it?
Or it could have been because like the main Bethesda game studio is making Starfield. Like they touted this as from the developers of Fallout 4 and Skyrim. They didn't bring up Fallout 76, but here's the thing: like Fallout 76 is being handled by a different team. Elder Scrolls Online, that's an entirely different developer. That's over at ZeniMax Online Studios.
Mm-hmm.
These distinctions do matter. I'm like, Starfield is being positioned as the big title for, not just the fall but the year. Like. You don't do a specific segment without, having that status. But it wasn't just first party stuff that was shown off here.
Didn't they show off more of Capcom's Exoprimal?
I think Exoprimal was at the Capcom showcase. The Capcom
wasn't it? They showed off like the friggin'
No.
Street Fighter 6 DLC for Exoprimal or something?
No, that was at the showcase. What they showed off here was Path of the Goddess.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Which, much like Exoprimal, has inflamed the old Onimusha fans. Because
they are not happy.
No. But it's also like your franchise hasn't had a game release in how long?
Decades at this point, almost.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not surprised that Capcom isn't going with something new. And you know what? I'll applaud Capcom for going that route. I mean, people fucking complain that not enough companies don't release new and original things. Like, well, what Capcom's doing that? Like, I'm sorry that your niche franchise from 2 decades ago isn't getting a new release, but that's kind of the world we live in.
Mm-hmm.
But I will grant that Exoprimal, no matter how much Capcom shows off of that game, just doesn't interest me in the slightest.
Yeah, like for me, it's kind of like Anthem, where the first few trailers were, hey, this looks pretty cool, and then they start getting the live service. I was like, oh.
Yeah. I think it's because it's a live service thing, and I'm like, ugh.
I mean,
Just-
conceptually, it's interesting enough, and it is going to be on Game Pass, so I'll at least give it a shot. But, like,
Yeah.
throwing down $70 on $60-$70 on this, no thanks. Unless it really, really, really wows me.
I mean, that being said, I really like the art style of Path of the Goddess. Like, it's striking and it looks unique. And I'm interested to see more of that. Which is a problem for a lot of games. I think the most interesting game from an art perspective that Microsoft's putting out is Song of the South, or whatever. The new game from Compulsion. It's just, once again, it had an interesting, like, claymation art style, and this this deep southern thing that you don't see a lot in video games, but it's a CG trailer, so
we have no idea what it'll actually be like.
yeah, it's like that told me literally nothing.
Kind of like with Fable, which
Yeah.
this should be the first real Fable sans Peter Molyneux.
Yeah, that's gotten released. Fable Legends was an attempt.
Yeah.
And
note the real moniker I added to that.
What Happened really needs to get to some Molyneux projects when I think about it.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Oh yeah, no, they did show off Exoprimal at the Xbox thing as well. Like,
yeah, I was pretty sure they did.
It's like it's just because they showed off it even more at the Capcom thing. Like I said, there's still a whole bunch of games here. Like,
there's a lot of games, but a lot of it's kind of just fluff.
Some of it's is interesting, like Towerborn, from the creators of the Banner Saga.
I must have missed that one.
Once again, that one stood out to me, if only because it wasn't dark and grim.
Fair.
I think the weirdest thing at the showcase was the collaboration between Microsoft Flight Simulator and Dune.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't
For when you really, really want to have your Cessna swallowed by a sandworm?
I guess, but it's like it's Microsoft Flight Simulator. You're supposed to be simulating real vehicles that exist in the world.
On ideally planet Earth.
Yeah, nobody has created Dune vehicles. I don't know what the name of that bug ship is. So it's head scratching. Though we are also getting a new flight simulator game, Flight Simulator 2023, which means Microsoft is back to giving these numbers, like they should have done with the previous version.
Was the previous version just Microsoft Flight Simulator?
Yep.
With the annoying rapper, you already know who it is thing on it.
Yeah.
Implied, I mean.
Yeah. There was also 33 Immortals from Thunder Lotus, highlight, which is 33 player co-op. Okay,
That sounds like a lot.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to keep an eye out. Just because, okay, yeah, you got something going on here. That's
Back
either
in
going to
my
be
day, we capped out at 16.
well, no, you didn't, because we're not talking about competitive.
Mm.
We're talking about co-op.
Oh,
33 player co-op. Like, getting a number above 4 in co-op is highly unusual.
I mean, at some point, it just becomes a tactical or freaking real time strategy thing. Only each unit is played by an individual person.
Or it becomes like the new Super Mario Brothers games, where it's just an absolute chaos fest.
Yes, it's a problem in platformers where when the characters have collision and the platformers are not big enough for all of them to be stood on at once.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a head scratcher, but certainly stood out.
Mm-hmm.
If only because, okay, you got a gimmick going on here. We have no idea if it's going to be good, but you got a gimmick here. Like, harebrained schemes emerged from the dead to show off the Lamplighters League, which is going to be, I don't think it's their first original title, but it's their first original title in a good long while.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, it's been a while since they put out the last bit of BattleTech.
Mm-hmm.
So, good to know that they're still alive.
Indeed.
Let's see. Hi-Fi Rush is getting a new mode called the Arcade Challenge. So,
We'll
it's still getting
goes.
Still getting support.
Yeah, more content for a good game isn't a problem.
Mm-hmm. Life of P got a new look. Still looks interesting.
Did you want to do Grimdark Pinocchio?
I mean, I did enjoy the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Forza Motorsport, of course, because it couldn't be an Xbox thing without, like Halo or Forza or Gears of War or Gears, something.
Mm-hmm.
And, Forza is like their other big game for the fall.
Was this the one where they showed off the Gran Turismo movie? Or was that previously?
That was Sony's showcase.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah, like Microsoft probably wouldn't be showing off the
Oh yeah, that's mostly a Sony franchise, isn't it?
It's a Sony franchise.
Sorry.
I'm like, Microsoft would probably have a sponsored thing by the Gran Turismo movie, because that would be handled by Columbia Pictures, which isn't Sony Computer Entertainment. Different arms of conglomerates have different goals and have different priorities. This is how, even though Spider-Man is largely controlled by Sony, the movie rights, Columbia Pictures licensed that out to Activision back in the day, because it would make them more money than having it, attached to Sony. Sony Computer Entertainment. But we're getting off topic here.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's more stuff here, but I think we would wrap this up here and now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, from a games perspective, I think this was a notch better than what Microsoft usually shows. If only because Microsoft showcases are usually just a blur. Like, it's game after game after game, and they all look the fucking same. It wasn't the case here.
Mm-hmm.
So, Comics and Gold Star for you, Microsoft, because you own that fucking font. Anyway, so that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. So, coming up on the week ahead, we do have a new episode of MSP happening in about half an hour.
Yep.
And hopefully the guest is all lined up there.
Yep, I did my job for once.
I mean, it is unusual, but... Well, I mean, how often do you handle a guest for any show?
Fair. I try at least.
Like, now, don't shade Gallix. Like, but anyway, no Friday show this week, and coming up on the Sunday reviews, we'll be having reviews of Balloony, Driven by Madness, Haven Dock, Katana Ra, Shinobi Rising, and impressions of Nova Drift. Early access here. So, until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.